Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Sky Fox. Thank you so much for being here today. Today I am doing a video response to Amelia from Sybil's Lab of Cartomantics. She's one of two women that post on that channel, and she recently posted a video titled The Voices of the Emperor, where she went through a number of different decks and went through each of the Emperor cards and talked about the different nuances and the different ways that the emperor spoke through that card based on how the image was depicted in each of those decks. At the end of the video, she had invited a video response to have us pick a card and do something similar. So this is what I'm doing today. And the card that I am doing today is the Two of Swords. So I pulled out a couple of different decks that I have. I pulled out the Two of Swords from each of them, and we are going to go through each of the different cards. I'd been wanting to do this video for a while, so when I saw her do this exercise, I was like, hell yeah, I want to jump in on this video response. And the reason for that is because several months ago, I did a reader's critique session with Kelly Ann Maddox, and this was an exercise that she had recommended as part of the feedback that she gave me in my critique session. It was a wonderful session, by the way. I highly recommend doing it if you follow Kelly Ann Maddox and you want to work with her. It was a really cool experience, and she gave me some really good feedback. And part of the feedback that she gave me was on the Two of Swords, which had come up literally in the cards that I had pulled for her. And her feedback was that I had gone too literal with the imagery on the card and it wasn't resonant with her. And so that's kind of what inspired this exercise and the feedback that she had given me. And it was such good feedback that I have thought about of how to work with different imagery in different decks and not go so literal based off of what is actually in the image, but how to keep it in more of like a broader metaphorical sense. So that's why we're doing the Two of Swords today. I'm going to start with the Two of Swords from the Mahogany Tarot World Edition. So the way that I have learned tarot, and I'm still learning tarot, a lot of the correspondences that I have been studying come from the Hermetic Kabbalah in the Tree of Life. So all of the twos, excuse me, are in the Sephira of Chokmah. And the key word for this Sephira is wisdom. So when we're looking at that overall with the twos, taking the inspiration of the ace of the energy from Keter, and we're moving towards wisdom and expansion with the Sephira of Chokmah. And so when we think of that and we break it down elementally, we're looking at the sword suit, which is the element of mind, or is the element of air in the realm of the mind, of intellect, of our thoughts, and how those thoughts play into our sense of identity and our ego. So if we think of that energy or that overall message of wisdom, so the Two of Swords, we're moving towards wisdom, we're moving towards an expansion of wisdom, of our intellect, of our mind, of our thoughts, of society at large. And so typically in the Rider-Waite-Smith imagery, we have a woman sitting here in front of a body of water with two swords crossed against her heart, and she's blindfolded, which can signify that or traditional divinatory meanings, I suppose, are things like a stalemate, an inability to make a decision, having to weigh your decisions, and a lot of the time it's read as a like kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. Like no matter what decision you make, it's going to be difficult because typically swords are read as difficult cards. Um, and then we have other sort of elements to look at here. We have the body of water behind her that are filled with these rocks just off the shoreline, a mountain in the back. And typically, how many times can I say typically? But rocks and mountains a lot of the times are read as challenges, challenges that are approaching, and since they are behind her, it's like this inability to make a choice because there is a resistance to meeting those challenges that will be ahead of her. Another more kind of thothy interpretation, thothy, is looking within to find the stillness of mind, to find this peace of the mind in order to make those decisions. So, because we have her with the blindfold, right? So she's looking inward. Her ability to make this choice and going forward is not going to come from an external source. She has to source that wisdom from within to be able to make a choice to move forward. So, yeah, that's cool. Moving on to our second card here, I do have the Two of Swords from the Thoth image. This is it's a mass market Thoth Tarot deck. I have trimmed off the borders and I love it. I love it, love it, love it. And so the title on this card is Peace. In the Hermetic tradition, I suppose, I believe the full title is the Lord of Peace. And that's kind of the difference between the Rider-Waite Smith and the Thoth, from what I have seen and from what I have read and studied, is the Two of Swords isn't necessarily like a stalemate, but it is a call to find that peace of mind, to find that meditative space. And what I really love about the Thoth deck is that it's not depicting a specific scene or situation, which I feel like has really been helping me to expand my own intuition and ways of interpreting the cards. So I love that it's like these two swords are balanced perfectly. There's a lot of symmetry in the card. There's this balance of one sword on the other with this blue flower in the middle. This green background speaks to me. And I'm not saying this is what has been written down in like the Book of Thoth, which I've listened to the audiobook of the Book of Thoth because wow, that one is dense. That's one that you're gonna have to go back. I'm gonna have to go back and read over and over and over, probably for the rest of my life. Challenge accepted. But the green to me really speaks of like a feeling of lightness. We could associate it with the heart chakra, or this feeling of just lightness, of softness. There's a softness to the Two of Swords that I typically feel when I look at this image, as well as the perfect symmetry of these geometric shapes positioned in each of the spaces around the sword. I was looking at this a little bit ago too and noticing how like the sword is piercing this astrological sign of Libra. Libra, right? Or is that Aquarius? Pretty sure that's Libra. I could be mistaken. But we have the moon here. So the sword is piercing the moon and then also piercing, we're going to say Libra. Let me know if I am mistaken. But it's like, what do swords do? They cut, right? So it's like it's cutting away the illusion. So it's like cutting away the illusion, getting into the depths of the unconscious. It's cutting through the sign of Libra. So it's like cutting away everything that is making this imbalanced is kind of what I'm picking up from that. So yeah, the Two of Swords in the Thoth deck. Moving on, I have the Two of Swords from the Bonestone and Earthflesh, the mass market edition that just came out. I love this deck and how each of the cards has a different title on the card. This one is Della the Traveler. And we have this woman here with a child swaddled on her back, and she's at a fork in the road. She has to make a choice. She has to make a decision as to which path she's going to take forward. I don't know if you can see, but I believe, or what it looks like to me, is she is using a pendulum to divine direction, to receive wisdom from herself, from her guides, in order to make the best decision of which path that she should take. We have the dark clouds up in the sky above her, which could signal conflict, which could signal like there is a kind of precarious, is precarious the right word, nature to the choice that she is being faced with right now. The child on her back too is like what has she already faced in her travels so far, and it feels like she has to protect this child, she has to protect her baby. So it seems like there's a high risk involved, because it's not only her that would be affected by this choice, but it is also what she is being called to protect and what she's being called to nurture here. I really love this image. This artwork is so beautiful. Yeah, we also have like a crow or a raven below her, standing on this rock. You can't see it very clearly, or I don't know. I don't know if you can, but that could signal like a spirit guide again, kind of like with the pendulum, trying to notify her to get her attention, of like guiding her on her way, on her path. So really beautiful image. I love this image. The next Two of Swords that I have is from the Fyodor Pavlov Tarot. Another mass market deck produced by US Games, I believe. And this one is really interesting. I mean, it's kind of similar in a lot of ways to the Mahogany Tarot, or the traditional RWS style image of the Two of Swords. Like, they're both crossed. He is using his arm here instead of a blindfold to cover his eyes. And the color in this, I believe all of the swords in this suit are red. There's a lot of red, because this is a very like muted deck in the color and the colors that are used, the color palette that is used in this deck. But it seems like the nature of the way these swords are crossed are very interesting, and I'm like sitting here like, wow, like what does that mean? So we have he's crossing his eyes, he's covering his eyes rather with one hand, and then his other hand is like towards his root chakra, like his base, and the color red is sticking out as I mean, it's a very powerful color. It's a very deep red that I feel like is speaking to protection, like he's trying to protect himself, but he's not necessarily, or they are not necessarily wanting to see what is in front of them. Perhaps they're scared as to what's in front of them. And that's kind of like a similar vibe that I get with these branches that are kind of surrounding him, that are reaching out towards him, is there is a level of fear and anxiety that is really prominent in this. And he is, or they are, it's actually probably a she. Anyway. But yeah, this definitely evokes a lot more anxiety, or this entanglement with the branches that are reaching out, that are trying to influence this character in some way. And where the swords are crossed too, it's like they are crossed at her root. So it's like this choice could be um, a choice that is needing to be made in regards to our home, our safety, our security, and um, things of that nature. So yeah, this is really really fascinating. I mean, she also looks very powerful. Like she looks ready. Like she might be fearful, but this is a stance of defense. And when it is called upon this character to make a decision, it feels like they are going to choose ferociously. Like they are ready to put up a fight. Is what this is kind of speaking to me right now in this moment anyway. Love it. So, okay, the next two of swords that I have is from the Modern Love Tarot by Ethany Dawn. And this deck, I believe, is now out of print. But this is the card that I got my feedback on when I did the reader's critique session with Kellyanne Maddox, and this is where she was like, I think you went a little bit too literal with the with the interpretation there, bud. Because I had said something to the effect of like, they need to get off their phones, or they need to something, and she was like, I'm not actually like on my phone much, and so which is fine. I mean, we don't have to be 100% right all the time in the interpretations, and I actually love that happened, so that it could be brought to my attention of uh, how I can shift and progress in my readings and the way that I read, and how different imagery speaks to me. Because looking at it now, it still kind of gives that energy of a stalemate, of like this couple lying in bed, neither of them are looking at each other. They would rather be distracted on their devices, um, rather than make the decision to turn to each other and perhaps have a conversation that both of them have been avoiding. So it really speaks to, or what it's speaking to me in this moment is like the inability to make a choice because the choice is uncomfortable, and I would rather be distracted. I would rather distract myself and not think about it, put it off and put it off and put it off. But like, look, like their backs are touching. Their backs are touching. So on the inside, both of them care for each other deeply. Both of them want to be connected, even if they're not looking at each other, because they are sharing this physical space and still allowing the body contact, but they are not ready or not willing to drop their guard and maybe admit where they were wrong, or maybe they're expecting an apology from one another, and neither of them or each person maybe thinks that they're right in the situation, you know, and neither of them are kind of willing to put put down the need to be right and uh, more embrace this movement towards an expanded sense of wisdom of what the conflict between them right now is teaching them, to have a deeper understanding in the third Sephira, the keyword being understanding on the tree of life. So it's like they have to make this choice to move towards this expanded wisdom to be able to understand each other better and to understand what this situation is teaching them in their relationship. So yeah, I love it. I still love this deck. I still love it. I kind of, not gonna lie, kind of like put it down after that and was like, I don't like this. I don't like this deck. Like I got, you know, it made me say something wrong or like whatever. I mean, the deck didn't make me say anything, but you know, my interpretation of it. But kind of looking at it now and sitting with the image and kind of understanding what is being implied by the image versus what is literally happening on the card, I think is super important. Okay, so I have 3 more cards. The next one that I'm covering is the Two of Swords from the Deviant, or the Trionfi Della Luna Illustrated Pips edition. And this one is quite interesting to me. I don't want my elbows. I don't want my elbows on the cards. So we have this two-headed figure here, and they are both looking directly at the swords, 2 different swords, which is interesting because in the traditional RWS imagery, the figure is blindfolded, right? So they are not looking directly at the swords, but they're kind of sourcing within. This is a two-headed figure looking directly at the swords. They're looking directly at the thought. They're looking at the mind. They're like fixated on this thought pattern or on this idea that has been presented to them, and they have to make a choice. And each of the swords leads to a different path. And it's like, and the path, I mean, both of them lead into darkness, right? Both of them lead into the unknown. And there's nothing external on the structure that is making up this tunnel, these tunnels, to differentiate necessarily what is going to be a better option on the external. Like there's no indication of which path is going to be better just based on looking at on the outside, right? And what's interesting is like the faces are moons. And you could look at this as one is a waxing moon, one is a waning moon. And typically when I think of the moon, I think of the unconscious mind, the subconscious, like how the moon brings up our kind of primal thoughts and feelings and emotions. So it's like maybe this is a a choice that is really inspired by this idea that is affecting you on a subconscious level, excuse me, or an unconscious level. And so it might be kind of a choice that is a little maddening, you know, like it's bringing up this primal instinct within you that can be uncomfortable to deal with because there are parts of ourselves that we don't necessarily want to look at all the time. And so a lot of the times the moon is looked at things in half light or in darkness, like things aren't fully illuminated. So you can't see the bigger picture. You can't see um, the path in its fullness. And so, again, there's this level of risk, or there's this level of mystery and the unknown, and having to trust your intuition with making the next right step in this moment from what you can see right here, and trust that it's going to unfold in front of you, and you are going to have a deeper understanding as you continue to make choices with what is presented in front of you. And how is this inspiring you to maybe heal some of those things that you are uncomfortable with? Um, I mean, I'm thinking of myself, like, for example, and like getting over my, nerves of kind of making a video response and of making this video and kind of being up in my head about it and like, how is this going to be received and whatever and blah, blah, blah. Um, and then the other interesting symbol up here is we have like this eye, like this all-seeing eye. And there's these little yellow teardrops that are surrounding the eye. I don't know if those are like intended to be yods. Um, the yods in the RWS are like I don't know even what you call them specifically, but they're like the energies of the divine or energies of the spirit. Like you see the yods in um, different cards, like the tower or the aces. They have these little symbols, and I think that I don't know, maybe I don't know how to explain it, but it's like they are blessings from the divine or gifts from the divine in some way. But yeah, this all-seeing eye is like looking over this figure as they are fixated. And so I don't know, it kind of gives the vibe of like a watcher, like somebody is observing you making this choice, or someone is yeah, there's like eyes on you as you make this decision, like people are, or someone, or your higher self is waiting for you to make a decision to see what direction you're going to go, and how you're necessarily going to play this out. I don't know if you all watching, or if anybody watching has any sort of impressions as to what the eye could represent. I would be curious. I'd be curious to know. Um, and I'm not very well versed or spend a lot of time like understanding like the colors that are here in this deck, or not just this deck, but like colors of the clothes in different decks as well. So like they're wearing this blue sort of gown. It almost looks like a gown of like a high priestess, and then a red cape. And red typically to me it signifies like power and control and authority. So it's like on the outside they're wearing this red cape. So externally they have the power to choose. They have the control to choose, and the responsibility of this choice does fall on you to take control and make that choice. And the blue kind of high priestessy vibing dress is like, you have to make this choice with your intuition. you have to trust your intuition in order to make that move, in order to make that choice. You have to listen from a place of stillness and silence in order to hear the softness of your intuition instead of the roar of your anxiety, is kind of what that is speaking to me. Okay. Let's move on. Let's move on. We have 2 more cards. Okay. So this is the 2 of Swords from the Lubanko Tarot, which is another mass market deck that has just come out. It was previously an independent deck that went out of print, was out of print for a long time, and then Llewellyn published it mass market. I love this deck. I'm kind of intimidated by this deck because the imagery is so much doing its own thing in so many of the cards, which is awesome. Like, I love that. But maybe I'm also a little bit of a deck goblin, and I, it's like another deck comes in and then I get distracted by the new and shiny. But I love that I have this, and I definitely want to spend more time with it. And here in this image, we have this figure that looks like they're hiding. It looks like they're hiding behind this wall, so we only see half of their face. This card is very dark, like, in the colors that are used to depict this. Like, there's a lot of black in the card, which kind of, again, speaks to things not being clear. Like, you're not able to see around you, and you're not able to see around you, and so things are unclear. But these swords are like, they're almost like swords made of light, which I think is really cool. Sorry, I have to look at this for a minute. I'll show the card again, but like, I just have to look at this for a minute. Yeah, like, the expression on this person's face is very solemn. Like, it's almost sad. Like, it seems like they're experiencing grief or fear or uncertainty. Like, their eyes are red. Or the eye that we can see is red. They have a lot of red around their head. So it feels like maybe there's been some kind of external situation that has been kind of forced upon them, maybe, that has, like, clouded their thoughts, clouded their minds. Like, it seems like this person with all of the red over their face is very concerned with like, the perception of another person or the perception of an external situation. And so what can they do to clear away all of that so that they are left with their own thoughts and their own sovereign ability to make a decision? I feel like this is an image that you could just sit with and you could meditate with and see what kind of, like, almost like scrying, like, what different images can kind of come out of this. But it's like, eventually this person is going to have to stop hiding. Eventually this person is going to have to make peace with what is being presented to them and use these light swords in order to forge a path forward. And what's interesting is, like, if they were to come out of hiding and they were to grip onto this sword, if these swords are made of light, it feels like by making that choice, light would be expanding, and it would cut away the darkness from this card. It would maybe cut away the fear, and it would, like, illuminate. That's what light does, right? It illuminates, it clears, it clears illusion, and it brings clarity to the situation at hand to progress to progress in the tree of life, if that's the way that we're looking at it, to a deeper place of understanding, to take the expanded wisdom of what he is learning from this situation to receive a deeper understanding in Bina. Yeah. Again, this is a card that I feel like I would love to hear what other people have to say about it, what it makes them think of. I thought about going into the guidebook and kind of reading from the guidebook, because from what I have read, it's a lovely guidebook written by Lubanko. And you can just tell that a lot of thought and love went into this deck, and it's so gorgeous. It's so gorgeous. Yeah. But I have one more card. I have one more Two of Swords image that I want to talk about, and that is the Two of Swords from the Shadowscapes Tarot, which was one of the first decks that I had bought when I started my tarot journey about a year and a half ago. And this particular copy is the Czech edition. So it's written in Czech here. So you do, like, I mean, I got it because like the card itself physically is larger than the Llewellyn Shadowscapes edition, and the artwork is so finely detailed that I was able to find this like but I had a stroke of luck and was able to find this, and I'm so happy that I did, because I love the larger image to be able to sit with kind of the finer details of this deck as a whole. So in this Two of Swords, we have this hooded, cloaked figure, cloaked in a black cloak this time, which could signify protection. Like, protection is kind of what is jumping out to me most right now. The swords are still crossing their heart. Sorry, I will show this image again, but there's just so much to look at in this image. I love all the little nature spirits that are in this. We have two swans. This swan down here is presenting this figure with a flower, and it is like the figure is faced away from this offering of what this swan is presenting. And then up here, this swan kind of has the higher ground, and there is this heart amulet type thing that is tied around this tree branch. So it could be, you know, making the choice between the mind and the heart, and how, like, what decision needs to be made. Contemplating, taking time to think about making a balanced decision between the mind and the heart, instead of leaning on one more than the other. It feels like in this specific image that this person wants to make a choice that is more heart driven. It seems like they don't want to necessarily look at the logic, at the logical side of this situation that's being presented to them. Which is interesting too, because we have this tree that's growing up here. And then there's like these other tree branches here that are not necessarily fully formed. They're more like the essence or the spirit of the tree. And so it's like this person has already like formed pretty much the decision that they want to make, but they know that they haven't necessarily considered the logical side of it. Like, and this is the one that the heart is tied around too. So it's like they are really emotionally inspired to make a decision with their heart, but they aren't necessarily looking at this logical side of the situation here. And so what are the consequences of that? What are the consequences when we don't integrate both the logic and the heart to make our choices going forward? So yeah, that's kind of what's sticking out to me with that one. Yeah, this was really cool. And that's all of them. That's all the ones that I pulled out that I wanted to cover today. So thank you so much, Amelia, for posting this, for posting your video and asking for video responses. I'm really excited that I did this, that I kind of worked through my own stuff and decided to go ahead and do this. So yeah, it was a really fun exercise, and I would be curious to know what all of the cards that we went through today, if anybody has any sort of if there was something that stuck out to you about any of the cards as to what they meant to you. But yeah, we'll end it at that. Thank you again so much. Please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing to the channel, and I will see you all in the next video. Thank you so much. Bye.